Certain plants have associations in people's minds with various kinds of locations or appearances or climates that they may come from. The plant in front of me here, the yucca, is a very familiar plant to almost everybody who knows anything about gardens or plants, and it brings images of heat-tolerant plant, a drought-tolerant plant, maybe native to the southwest deserts, or in a design sense something that's very architectural, very contemporary, and it finds its use in the landscape in that way in many cases. We actually have this species as a native plant in North Carolina, Yucca Filamentosa, which grows in the coastal areas and particularly on the beaches, and is very, very heavily used in the landscapes in that area. It is a plant that can be used throughout North Carolina, however, and is hardy all the way into the mountains. And beyond the normal type of Yucca Filamentosa that you see here, there are also several variegated cultivars in yellows and whites. Some of them have yellow centers, some of them have yellow margins, and those are very attractive, again, drama in the landscape beyond the time when the flowers are appearing in the early summer. Now, beyond this species, there are many, many other species, of course, native to the southwest deserts, and in our trials at the NCSU Arboretum, we're finding a lot of these are much more tolerant of our wet summer rains and our winter cold than we would have thought originally. You can find yuccas that are tiny little plants, never getting over 6 inches in diameter, all the way up to some that can make small trees with time. Another group of plants seen behind me over here to my right are a group of plants known as agaves. Again, to the casual viewer, they would seem very similar, and again, most of them are native to the Texas, Mexico, southwestern desert areas. And a lot of those are proving to be very good here as well. Probably the most familiar non-horticultural use that the average layman might have with agaves is that's the source of commercial tequila that's manufactured in Mexico, fermenting the juice of the leaves of that particular plant. There are several other kinds of desert plants that have similar looks to these plants that we're finding are very adaptable and very useful here. I'd like to draw a couple of these to your attention as well. A group that we still do have a native species here is one of the Manfredas, Manfreda virginiana, or sometimes called Agave virginiana, grows in the coastal areas, very dramatic flowers in the summer. This is a new one to cultivation. The botanists really have not even identified it as to its true species that we found on a recent collecting trip into Mexico. We have quite a number of Manfredas now, and they're proving to be very interesting and very exciting and different plants, worthy, I think, of use here in this area. Another plant that is occasionally seen in North Carolina gardens is one of the Hesperaloes. Normally the one that's cultivated is a red-flowered one, but we also have them in pinks, a pale yellow, and whites as well. Again, some of these are hybrids that occur in the wild of some of the other species. Another group of plants which has almost a yucca-like appearance are a group known as the Nolinas. Again, several native southeastern species and a number from the desert areas. And then the last one that I would mention is a thing called the Eryngiums. The North Carolina native is sometimes called rattlesnake master. Again, very broad, dramatic tropical-looking foliage and tall flowers in midsummer. And we're again finding a half a dozen so species of these are working well for us. Again, most of these plants that you've seen here today are not available commonly in most North Carolina nurseries. You'll find more of them as you go to coastal areas than you do in the mountains, and particularly where we have some imports from major wholesale nurseries on the west coast or down south. But they will work here and are certainly deserving of greater trial. With a little bit of hunting, particularly through some of the specialty mail order catalogs, one can find an interesting array of these to try in your own garden for that dramatic contemporary architectural look. And again, if you have a stressful site, a hot, dry area, out on a paved surface or something, you can find these very useful for those conditions as well.